Welcome back, everyone. If you're a focused learner trying to map out the real mechanics of digital marketplaces, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're taking a really deep look at how platforms can successfully use artificial intelligence to close that vital space between a simple match and, actual money changing hands. Okay, let's dive into this explainer and unpack exactly why the right tool depends entirely on what your marketplace is actually made of. First off, I want to shatter a pretty common myth right out of the gate. Most marketplaces completely obsess over the match. Supply meets demand, the connection is made, and boom, everyone just assumes the job is done. But here's the harsh reality. What actually happens between that match and a completed transaction? Well, that is exactly where growth quietly dies. It's this invisible space right in the middle where the true friction lives. We call this invisible space the conversion gap. By definition, it's that frustrating point of failure between a supply-demand connection and a fully completed transaction. And let me be absolutely clear here. Every single marketplace has one, no exceptions. Fixing this gap is arguably one of the highest leverage investments a platform can possibly make. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. How you fix it depends entirely on using the exact right tools. If you get this wrong, you'll either overspend on massive AI infrastructure you literally don't need, or you'll apply powerful tools to a problem they just weren't designed to solve. So here is our roadmap for today. 1. The hidden conversion gap. 2. Structured data, rules, and ML. 3. Conversational data, the LLM solution. 4. The Airbnb hybrid model. 5. The sequencing principle. And finally, number 6, the monetization cascade. Let's get right to it. Section 1. The hidden conversion gap, diagnosing the drop-off. Now, on the surface, these failures look entirely different from one another. A cart abandoned at checkout? That's highly visible, super measurable. But an expired booking request or maybe a cold custom order inquiry, that feels way more ambiguous. Or think about an unanswered proposal on a freelance site. That just feels like a networking failure, or honestly, just a really harsh personal rejection. So the mechanics look wildly different across different types of marketplaces, but the core failure is exactly the same. Something breaks between the connection and the actual conversion. And because platforms so often view these as totally separate issues, they tend to apply the completely wrong tech to try and fix them. Which brings us to Section 2, Structured Data, Rules, and ML. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer predictability of this path. The vast majority of marketplace transactions follow this exact, super legible flow: listing, discovery, cart, checkout, and finally, payment. The signals that explain whether a conversion actually succeeds or fails here are entirely quantitative. They're deterministic. We're talking about simple things like time on page, price relative to comparable listings, cart abandonment rates, and repeat purchase behavior. This is what we call structured data. And the absolute most important takeaway here: structured data does not require an expensive large language model. For this specific type of structured conversion gap, basic rules and traditional machine learning are exactly the right tools. Take Amazon's seller intelligence tools, DoorDash's partner dashboards, or Etsy's pricing suggestions. These platforms use simple rules to handle deterministic cases. For instance, if a cart is abandoned for exactly 2 hours, a rule triggers an automated re-engagement email. We've all gotten those slightly desperate, "Hey, did you forget something?" emails, right? Or if a listing gets 0 views in 48 hours, a rule just gives it a little ranking nudge. Then, machine learning steps in to handle the pattern cases, like analyzing which specific customer segments churn after a first purchase, or forecasting demand based on geography and time of day. Listen, for structured marketplaces, these are optimization problems. They are not comprehension problems. They just need pattern detection at massive scale, which rules and ML do brilliantly and much more cost-effectively. Moving on to Section 3, Conversational Data, the LLM solution. Let's compare these two worlds for a second. On one side, we have nice, neat, structured signals. On the other side, we have conversational signals, agreed scopes, negotiated timelines, thread sentiment. Look, some marketplace transactions simply cannot happen without a back and forth. A question absolutely needs an answer before any trust is established. The signals that determine if a conversion is actually going to happen are buried in a messy, unstructured, completely ambiguous message thread. And right here is where rules and ML hit a very hard ceiling. Sure, a rule can tell you a conversation has been dead quiet for 48 hours, but it cannot tell you why that specific conversation stalled. It doesn't know if the customer asked for something totally impossible, or if the tone of the seller's last message just rubbed them the wrong way. To figure that out, you need a model that can actually read. And this is exactly where LLMs shine. Take Upwork as a prime example. Between a newly posted job and a hired freelancer sits a proposal, a whole message exchange, and maybe even an interview. The signals that actually predict conversion are hidden right there, in whether the freelancer's opening message showed a genuine understanding of the project scope. Or think about Etsy's custom order flow, where buyers and sellers negotiate these really bespoke details in a thread. The transaction either gains momentum or it quietly dies in an inbox right next to all your unread promotional newsletters. We see the exact same pattern in Faire's wholesale marketplace, where acquiring a first-time retailer often starts with a messenger inquiry about lead times and minimums. For all of these scenarios, LLMs can jump in, parse the threads, pull out structured signals from those unstructured conversations, and instantly surface the exact moments that need intervention, like, say, a conversation where the sentiment suddenly just dropped off a cliff. Section 4. The Airbnb hybrid model, a masterclass in AI. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept perfectly. Airbnb offers two totally distinct booking modes that require completely different AI architectures. The first is Instant Book. This is your classic structured path. A guest selects their dates, accepts the house rules, and pays. Boom, no conversation required at all. The conversion gap here is pure optimization. We're talking pricing, calendar gaps, demand forecasting. So Airbnb uses a gradient boosting model, which is a form of ML trained on literally millions of bookings, factoring in local events and real-time demand shifts to dynamically update their pricing. It is rules and ML doing exactly what they're built to do. But then we have Request to Book. Here, a guest sends a message, and the host has 24 hours to respond and approve it. The signal that determines if this booking actually closes, it isn't in a timestamp, it's in whether the host's very first response built confidence in the thread. This requires LLMs to parse that conversational back and forth. Airbnb runs both of these systems side by side, completely recognizing that different transaction types require fundamentally different tech. Now, the stakes for getting this right are absolutely massive. Get ready for a pretty surprising metric. For Airbnb's Request to Book, responding within an hour produces roughly a 25% lift in conversion compared to slower responses. That's huge. Hosts with a perfect response rate actually convert inquiries at twice the rate of hosts who sit below 90%. That 25% lift proves that in conversational transactions, speed, tone, and trust building are the ultimate metrics. And honestly, an LLM is the only tool that can actually help you monitor and coach your suppliers to hit those targets. That takes us to Section 5. The sequencing principle, avoiding AI overspend. So any good product manager has to ask themselves the tough rhetorical question, are you overspending on AI? To avoid that, you absolutely must follow this escalation path. Step 1, start cheap. Use deterministic rules. Handle time-elapsed, price deltas, and cart abandonment cheaply and auditably. Step 2, when your data set grows way too large to anticipate every little corner case and you start seeing unseen patterns emerge, that's when you escalate to machine learning. That's where ML really earns its keep. And step 3, only when the inputs stop being deterministic, when the signal actually lives in a messy conversation thread rather than a neat database field, only then should you make large language models load-bearing. So the crucial point is to remember this golden rule. Every single problem you can solve upstream is one you shouldn't escalate to a more expensive model. Let each layer of technology handle only what it is actually equipped for. This right here is the ultimate law of AI engineering and resource optimization for absolutely any marketplace. Finally, Section 6, the monetization cascade, 4 payoffs. Let's move to and see how this builds into a really powerful cause and effect cascade. Step 1. AI actually closes the loop. Whether you're using ML or LLMs, you finally figure out exactly why transactions are failing, and you provide real, actionable feedback. Step 2, suppliers retain. Sure, suppliers who win jobs stay, but more importantly, suppliers who understand why they lost, because you've finally given them a real feedback loop parsed directly from conversational data. They stay too. Your churn drops significantly. Step 3, willingness to pay increases. As that retention compounds over time, suppliers develop a tolerance for higher subscription fees or platform take rates. Why? Because they are no longer just buying a static listing. They're buying a verified result. And finally, step 4, new products launch. The data infrastructure you just built to close that loop suddenly becomes a product itself. You can now sell deep insights, AI-assisted coaching, and performance benchmarking. It is literally one smart architectural investment that delivers 4 very distinct, very profitable payoffs. I want to leave you with this final, provocative question to chew on today. What does your marketplace's conversion gap actually look like? Are you dealing with structured signals that you've been underinvesting in? Unstructured conversations that your system currently can't even read? Or, like Airbnb, are you running both at exactly the same time? Take a hard look, evaluate your architecture, apply the sequencing principle we talked about, and start capturing all that growth that's just been quietly dying in the gap. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.